This is day 267 of Arukh HaShulchan OC. If you'd like to sponsor an upcoming shir or more of the Arukh HaShulchan OC, please contact me directly. It would be very much appreciated. Tonight's Arukh HaShulchan OC, or today's Arukh HaShulchan OC, is dedicated on this Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Parsha Zachar, and is sponsored the Chavod Erev Shabbos Kodesh Parsha Zachar, in honor of Parsha Zachar, by Reb John Abraham. Thank you very much. Today we are doing Siman Kuf Pei Dal Siv Ches. It's a Siman Kuf Pei Hey Siv Vav Ches. Negmar Isa Sham Isa. The Gemara says that Mishomer the Shir. Sorry. Negmar Sham Isa Mishomer. There's there brought down somebody who says the Shir equal Hudehiluch Arba Amilin. Your food is still digested. You can no longer bench after you've carried enough time to walk for a meal. Perish Rashi B'chila Meruba Arba Milin. Rashi holds that even if you ate a lot, it's Arba Milin, no more. Taischil Muetas Arba Milin. Sham Kohen. If you ate a little, it's 4 million, but the more you eat, the longer it lasts. Ayin Sham. Achzelaman Desfile Sham the Shir equal who calls Machiyotzam Yitzma Machmas Achilosa. That is according to the opinion that holds that shirach equal is as long as you are still thirsty from the food that you just ate. But according to what that which we hold, the definition is calls manchena roib, as long as you're not hungry after that meal. Evidence that he holds that for meal is the parameter. There are those who say, therefore, that in we ate relatively little. The shir is 4 million, 4 meal kachros, but it tastes like the Tosfos say. But if you eat more, calls man roy so the number goes up as long as you're not hungry because the previous meal is still satisfying you. Shir arba million ushab yud beis chalkei shah. The shir which is unganuman, which is held by us to be the shir 4 meal, is 72 minutes. Even though that's not necessarily true for other halachas in the Torah. And it could be that these 70 minutes are Magen Avraham minutes, which are longer. But the minhag olam is to go by 72 minutes on the clock. But we still don't know what's a little bit, what's a lot to eat. Nevertheless, this is for sure. Until you get the 72 minute mark, you still have to make a birchas hamazon. Therefore, there is no other way. When you are tarried already, the 72 minutes plus, but except sheyocha ato kazais birch birchas hamazon, but eat now kazais. I haven't seen to washing kazais and bench now. That's what you have to do. So do by bracha of other things. There also is an outer limit. Oh, in this case, you have to make a bracha rishona. I guess not. By the case of shir, where you show the shir equal the by case where, that you were not mesiach das. In other words, even though you tarried a long time, you still weren't mesiach das. So if you don't have to wash and make a first bracha. He says, and generally it seems to me that when there's a suffix to a person, whether he tarried the shir of kidei equal amount to digest or not, the pastor if it's bread, you have to bench. Suffix the rice of other things that are suffix because it's a suffix the rabbanon, and therefore best not to bench. Or to make the bracha achrona. And Mishabur writes that some achrayim say that by a small amount of food, even with if it's within the 4 meal allocated 70 minutes, you should never eat another kazayis of bread and then make a birchas hamazon because we're misupuk, maybe it is over. Nevertheless, if you do not have bread, you can rely on the first svara and make birchas hamazon until the shir of 4 meal. Test. A shir achila v'ara pirkas hamazon could be kazayis bein oni v'zeh mirabbanan. The shir which have to eat in order to be chayim birkas hamazon is average size olive, and this is to be chayim rabbanan. Be the rice and be chayim the rice. Dafka kadeis you have to have enough to be satisfied. But levush kasa the kabeitz from the Torah. Levush writes that a kabeitz is already be the rice. The Yishmin Rishon Shesorke and already show him all that way. Shvi, Ra'ara, Ben Yerucham. Avarova say to answer McCain, but most authorities do not know that way. This will become further to clarify further later on. B'siyata d'shmaya. B'day know the b'shibadin sofek in birech the chayavar birkas moskos havnu that where you have a suffix you have to bench as previously written. That applies also to this is also in brackets actually. Gaminoshim adin kain. So to by women is aloha. I try to etc. Mr. The Bir Aloha writes that some people even know Kazai's the Raisa, but I'm not sure where they get that from. Okay, Kuf Pei Hey. Dine B'Birchas HaMazon. Well, we'll also have to do B'Birchas HaMazon. B'Birchas HaMazon Nemar B'Chol you can dance in any language. Nemar it says B'Rachdas Hashem Kecha. You should bless the Kosh Baruch B'Chol Hashem Baruch. Any language works. Nearly the sale Davka Shena may be Melosha Kodesh. Says, Arukh HaShulchan says it's only if you don't understand Lashon HaKodesh, you don't understand Hebrew. It says, why is benching said in any language? Because you know to whom you're benching. So too by davening, you can have any language because you should know to how to express yourself to ask for your needs. Ein shom. So it's clear that this is why they allow him to do it in any language. We may vim Lashon HaKodesh, but if you understand Lashon Hebrew, then you certainly know who you're benching for. So it must be that you have other languages when you don't know Hebrew and you can't get that kavanah in Hebrew, so you can have in other languages. But if you know Hebrew, you should have in Hebrew. The Shemur says the name of the Bach, it's only a mitzvah and a muvchar. A special mitzvah in Hebrew, but not essential. Back to Arukh HaShulchan in Megillah. It says about the Kriyas HaMegillah, the Mayodeli Krosa Ashuris, if you knew how to read it in Ashuris Velaz, you read it either in Aramaic or Hebrew, or in a foreign language, and Yotzba El Ashuris, you only Yotze if it's written in the proper Hebrew / Aramaic format. No, you can only read it. Sorry, in the standard Ashuris Hebrew Hebrew text. You can't gam Birchas HaMazon. So to Birchas HaMazon, feel gam can't also this way in davening. But Shebagmar Amu B'Chol Asher Shatam Barech. That which Gemara said you can do. You can make the bracha in any language you understand. It doesn't mean any language that you want. Maybe Lashon HaKodesh, it means you can't understand Hebrew. The word of maybe then bench in any language which you understand and which you can bench. It says practicing Lashon Hashem Shkasa below Kavali Lo HaKosu B'Lashon Akal Shono. Rashi says which indicates a much greater leniency that that there is no set language for benching. So if that's the case, Lamash McCain doesn't sound like you have to specifically prefer benching in Hebrew. Yesh Yashiv, but one can reconcile the two, Viduk, and if you look at it carefully, you can reconcile the two opinions. Now the Arukh HaShulchan gets into a polemic here. Base. In the previous generation, a wicked group arose outside our country. That they specifically wanted to bench and daven and in foreign language. They based on Mishnah and Saita. If we're talking about the reformers, I doubt that they needed Mishnah and Saita. But they based on Mishnah and Saita, which said they didn't have mind b'chol lashon, that he said they should say in any language. Ugdoli Ador she was bitlu divrayim. And the great the rabbis of the generation negated their perspective. But says these people did not understand what the Shas means at all, what the intent of the Gemara was. The Mishnah includes many things which are stated in any language. But there's more time in Malkach. The more expounds on why this is the case. On each and every one. Why can we say in every language? Barbei dvarim shadafka b'lashon hakodesh, and the main things specifically have to be said in Hebrew. V'doshim garal kol echad lamu dafka b'lashon hakodesh, and more expounds why each one has to be specifically in Hebrew. Ayin shom. It's not understand. This is not understood. In mitzad asvara, there's if in terms of logic, lo yinu omrim shetzarich dafka b'lashon hakodesh. We wouldn't. If logic would not say that, l'chatchila at least, preferentially, you should do lashon hakodesh. Lama tzarich kara. Why do you need a pasuk out elu shebachol lashon? They would say in any language. Even though it's differentiation, no priority. Mitzad asvara, and if on the other hand. Mitzad asvara yinamim shadafka b'lashon hakodesh. You specifically have to do it in lashon hakodesh. Lama tzarich kara le'elu shadafka b'lashon hakodesh. Then why do you need a pasuk for those which are specifically in lashon hakodesh? So something's wrong here. Either I shouldn't need the psukim for those which can be said in any language, or I shouldn't need the psukim for those who say specifically I said lashon hakodesh. If both are options. Gimel amnami kared v'anikenu. So rather it's like this. Tabada came out shatarnim b'lashon hakodesh. And so it's given in Hebrew. For lashon hamakudash shaboni b'olam, it's the holy language with the world with which the world is created. Bevadai mitzvah v'chava sheb'chol davar nogel l'Torah mitzvah. It's certainly an obligation and a mitzvah in everything which is relevant to Torah and to mitzvahs. So lashon hakodesh dafka, that it should specifically be in Hebrew. Lamisha yodeh lashon hakodesh, if you do know Hebrew. Ba'af misha enu yodeh lashon hakodesh, even so he doesn't know Hebrew. Lo yinu matim also lomar b'lashon acher. We would not allow him to say in any other language. Just stam. L'chein tzarich kra. That's in the pasuk. Latil lamisha enu yodeh lashon hakodesh, to permit somebody who doesn't know Hebrew k'divrei Yerushalmi she'avenu, like the Yerushalmi she brought. So in these cases, then lashon hakodesh is not an impediment. I feel like lashon hakodesh, and even you know Hebrew, and you violate or transgress, you daven and make brachas belaz in foreign language. Yotzei min Torah is yotzei l'shavar aveira, but you violated at the same time. Then the zeh ain't svar lomar shemish any of the lashon hakodesh. It doesn't really make it logical to say that somebody who doesn't know lashon hakodesh, he can daven in foreign language l'chatchila, even preferentially. We should there gam the ever lo yatsa. On the other hand, somebody knows Hebrew is not yatsa even with the ever. It says ufize tzrichei kroy latil l'chatchila misha yodeh lashon hakodesh. According to this. Yeah, you really need a psukim in order to permit that a person doesn't know lashon hakodesh k'dam, even a bench in the different language, even l'chatchila. Also, shetzorich dafka lashon hakodesh likuva. Those therefore which require lashon hakodesh even b'di'evet. Tzrichei kroi, they need psukim that b'di'evet lo yotze. They even b'di'evet they're not yotze. Because according to this pshita, it's obvious. The Issa Garmu, the Didon, it's absolutely us to us, these Ba'al of our b'lashon las, for us to learn and to daven, to daven and to make brachas in a foreign language. And it's preferential to daven always in Hebrew, if you can, and bench in Hebrew. But as far as the Kuf Aleph, the lashon las, we'll talk mamash. We already explained the difficulty of using las, because it has to be precise translation. Lashon hakodesh, lashon las, mila b'mila b'diktuk. Since translation has to be so precise, it's almost impossible to be fully yotzei. I don't know, probably yotzei. It's yotzei with reading the brachas, benching and davening in a different language. Well, do you have to understand what you're reading, or just the fact that reading Hebrew is good enough? He's looking at the same Tafrat Tzadik. His boy will become clear. Leina Megillah to belaz tzarich lavin. If you have seen read in foreign language, you must understand it. Being lavin, if not, lo yotze, not yotze. Abolashon hakedesh in Hebrew, afim eno mavin. Even if you don't understand what they're saying, yotze, you yotze. Hey, korev and hashmei. Both the person reading and the person listening. The Rashi Zaulamad we said to Adim Chol mitzvahs. And the Rashi derived all mitzvahs in that. K'mosh Kosem Mordechai B'Shmo. Mordechai writes this in his name. Perek Zayin the Brachos. Zayin Sham. If he's a kodesh, somebody spalo, v'amevorech, somebody who davens or benches, b'lashon hakodesh, and Hebrew yotze, obviously, maybe he's yotze even though he doesn't understand. So even somebody hears and doesn't understand. Since he's explicit, the Tanya, two people ate together. Mitzvah it's mitzvah that they should divide up. Everyone should make a bracha for himself. By Medvar, is this true? Because Shishneim Sover and they're both Tamid Chachamim. But one is Tam Chacham, the other is an ignoramus. Then, so fair, the Tam Chacham, Mivarech makes a bracha about Buri Yotzei, and the ignoramus is Yotzei, Av Shabur, and no Mevin Klal Lashon HaKodesh, even though he doesn't understand Lashon HaKodesh at all. But hearing the mention, Lashon HaKodesh, even though understand you can be Yotzei. Hey, Omnam Rabbi say Balei Taitzah Shav Kosev Zel Shoina. It's not so sure. They write, it's not clear if women are Yotzei with the Hebrew Zimun of the men because they don't understand what they're saying. Some people bring around that they are Yotzei. Come on, says later on, Sofer Mavarch Bor Yotzei. That the Sofer makes the bracha and the Bor is Yotzei. But with there, we say it's different. The Shani Bor Shemevim B'Lashon HaKodesh. A Bor understands a little bit of Hebrew at least. He knows a little bit what they're saying. He doesn't know how to bench on his own. But women used to not understand it all. It's not Yotzi altogether. But our Megillah, lo is Shishom Ashur is Yotzi. That says in Megillah that somebody speaks a foreign tongue. If he hears it in Hebrew, he's Yotzi. Pirsuma Nisa B'Alma Shani. That is Megillah, where it's made to be Mefarsim the Nace. The Kermin Hasam Chule. The Mefarsim Nace, you don't have to understand, just participate in the glorious occasion. I don't understand what the Bali Tosa is saying. The boor made him Lashon HaKodesh. I know that this boor, this ignoramus, he knows enough to understand Lashon HaKodesh. For Yarei Burim Yeshen Avinim Klal. Baruch Hashem, we find many ignoramuses that don't understand Lashon HaKodesh at all. V'chi Chelka, but Bryce meant Bur LeBur. You saw the third says Ben Dam LeDam Ben Din LeDin, but not Ben Bur LeBur. Bryce doesn't say you have to distinguish between different levels of Beirus. B'mesas Basmag Leisel Chiyazu Rakam Achta Megillah. And the truth is that the Smag learns, in fact, that this rejection of the premise, which is that it's only Persuma Nisa, is only going on Megillah, not on benching. Gam Dechiyazu Lo Ovin. And also, I don't understand this this whole that whole rejection. Sharei Megillah that allows you to hear the Megillah in Hebrew, even in Hebrew, even don't understand it. We don't know the pshat in all the words in Megillah. We know the pshat. Don't know pshat achshranim bnei ramachim. El mitzvahs kriya pirsum enisa. The mitzvahs to read and to be mefarz in this. El shavar pirsum enisa omer gam tam mitzvahs kriya. Right. So there's a special halacha of pirsum enisa, another special mitzvah of kriya. But that kriya is also just to read. Right. That is gam harei sheyotzer kriya zu avli shein mavinim. Let's even don't understand. In brackets, he says, "Losha Rosh Mordechai Mashin Shalifnei Ma'isagir So Rak Mitam Pirsum Enisa." That they didn't have this din kriya. Look at the Brisker Rava and Hilchos Megillah for this. V'gam Ram Perik Hey Aloch that's why Mashin okay. Sounds the Ram also not like that. V'chein Bahagva Rif V'chein Basmag Shom Kazav Shem Rik Das Rashi. Ayin Shom. They all seem to indicate that the issue is there's only Persuma Nisa and not kriya, which would mean even less of a responsibility to understand Hebrew. Also about a person who hears that he might have to understand. I have one Baruch makes a bracha for himself, or he damens for himself, even though he knows nothing. Nevertheless, he's Yosef. That's the tree the person who makes the bracha and the person who's listening. So didn't Shemei Ke'ena. The dad Shem Avarach Yotze Brachas Atzmo. The person making the brachas Yotze with his bracha. Abishay maybe if he doesn't understand. Came in Tevas Bracha Kach Hu He, because that's the formula of the bracha. But Shemei, but the person is hearing any let's say he does not yet say came maybe Mashi Omar Avarach. Let's understand what the Avarach is saying. Akal Shalom. Chen Kasu Kama Gedalim. He says here Avram or Astame Prima Gadim. Focus on the other word. Minagam Karashi, Danashim Yos Shmiya. Minagam is like Rashi, that women are yet to Shmiya. Af She'ain, Mevinos, Klum. You don't understand anything. Because there are a whole bunch of other sources in brackets. Chen Kasav Rabbeinu Ramah. Besiba Darchei Moshe Shom. Chen Bebor Midvara, Besima Kupsai Kesim Sain, Kosh Kosavnu. And Zogam Das Habahag Varifa Rambam Kemo Shekosavnu. So, sounds like the Mevorech. Himself, the person who's saying the words, does not have to understand the words. And, in the case of Megillah, that women are yotze even b'shmiya, even if they don't understand what's being said. Okay, tomorrow, Mir Hashem, Arukh HaShulchan will resolve all these issues.